So last Sunday, I did does anybody remember the title of the sermon last Sunday? No room. I did a sermon on no room and how the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, when he came to the earth, God, who should have been welcomed with open arms, was rejected from the very beginning. No room. How many of you like it when you go somewhere, let's say to a party? I just went to a Christmas party last night, and it was pretty crowded, but there was room, and they welcomed me in. Have you ever been somewhere where you were not welcomed in? Huh? Yeah. Like, they says, you don't belong here, get out. That's pretty harsh. Maybe there's some bullies like that, huh? Maybe you were the bully, or you were bullied by some bullies, but you didn't feel welcome. And here, can you imagine Jesus comes to the earth with the greatest intention of all, is to show his people his love. And they basically said, we don't have any room for you. So it shouldn't be any surprise to us when we go through our life and the world reacts to this whole Christmas theme without even thinking about it. I mean, Christmas time is supposed to be the most joyous time of the year. Christmas time is when God demonstrated his love, that while we were still sinners, he died for us. But before he died, he had to be born into the world. He had to experience everything that we have ever experienced in life, tempted in every way, yet without sin. So if you ever have gotten to the point where you think and you're saying to God, God, you just don't understand what I'm going through. Have you ever said that? Mm-hmm. But more than you do, more than you understand what's going on in your life, God understands so much more what you've been through. And do you not think that the heart of God just aches and hurts because of his compassion for you is so great? A lot of people say, well, God must be a evil God if he allows suffering to happen. When the hurricanes come and when the volcanoes erupt, I was just talking to Valerie and Wayne Vanderschaft. They just came recently moved back to the States from Guatemala. And they had 10,000 people killed from the volcano eruption. How can God be a loving God and allow something like that to happen? We don't understand God, but we know that, and when we get to the point where we can trust that God always does things that is right 100% of the time. And when we start trusting that, then we can get a glimpse of who God is. We make the attempt to understand God when we study the scriptures and we hear about all the events that happened with the Hebrew people and how God time and time again let the people go their own way and do their own thing. Let them find out for themselves that that doesn't work. And then the Hebrew people would come back to God and be restored in their relationship with God, and then pretty soon they get complacent and they go right back to where they were. The scriptures talk about how the dog returns to its vomit. You ever watch a dog? The dog that vomits out something and then it goes and eats it up again. Yeah, ooh,
Yeah.
gross, disgusting, right? But isn't that what happens? Let's take the drug addict, for example, right? He's shooting up his drug, and then he's crying out to God, God, if you would only deliver me from this situation, I'll serve you. And the next thing you know it, they're doing pretty good. And then pretty soon, they don't change their friends. They go right back to their old friends, and their friends say, hey, what are you, chicken or something? Are you a goody two-shoe because you go to church now? And next thing you know, they're shooting up again. Or the alcoholic, right? Drinking up. And especially during the holidays, everybody's got to have a drink, right? I mean, we have a great time, get all drunk and acting stupid and having a fight. Wake up the next morning and don't realize that you punched your best friend. Kneeling at the throne, barfing it all out because you're so sick. What kind of life is that? God came to redeem us from those circumstances. And yet we say, where's God in all this stuff? Well, God is there. God is so close that if we would just understand His presence in our daily life, all we have to do is open your eyes. I mean, how smart would it be for a person to walk around with your eyes closed and go to visit a place like Hawaii, for example? I mean, I just talked to somebody last night, and she just enjoyed the beauty of Hawaii. Went hiking and snorkeling and all this. And she's describing one thing, the thing that I have experienced growing up in Hawaii, the beauty of Hawaii. But then I talked to another person. I don't want to ever go back there again. How can two people see the same thing and see different things? See it differently? Well, maybe it's the individual who has rejected the idea of the beauty that God has created us, who created for us. It's our choice, really, what we want to do with God. Jesus Himself invites everybody. He welcomes everybody to His throne room. He says, come to me, all of you. What does all mean?
All of us.
Every single one of us. Come to me. You're welcome to have fellowship with me, especially when you're tired, especially when you're hurting, especially when you say that you cannot handle life anymore. Come to me, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Now, everybody knows what a yoke is, right? It's not that yellow stuff in an egg. Okay, that's not a yoke. I mean, that's a different kind of yoke.
What about a vehicle?
Y-O-L-K.
Huh?
I said, what about on a vehicle?
What's a yoke on a vehicle?
When you gotta put the transmit or the drive line together.
It's a thing that's going to help it run straight instead of going to the right or to the left, right? Well, the yoke in the old days was a wooden thing that you put two oxen together so that they will work together. The sad thing is that we want a relationship with God, yet we want to do our own thing. So we remove that oak, we don't want to be tied to having to do it God's way. And guess what happens to our life?
Out of control.
Out of control, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we just listen to God and do it His way, it's going to be easy. It's going to be light. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. And you will, that's a promise, you will find rest for your souls. So today, if you're not feeling like, I mean, you kind of give your life to the Lord, but you kind of take it back and you want to do it your own way, whose fault is that? Is that God? And yet we blame God, right? God said, do it my way, 100% of the time. And if you do it 100% of the time, life's going to be great. Because I'm going to help you through your struggles. Doesn't mean you're not going to have any problems, but He will bless you more than you can ever imagine. And what I keep on seeing is that we want God in our lives, but we don't want to do it His way. If His word says, do not do it this way, and you're doing it that way, then it's His fault. You can't blame God. It's our own fault. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. Can you imagine Jesus, how patient He was when He was on the earth? There's the group of people that always try to take Him down, always trying to find fault in Him. You ever have somebody that's always trying to find fault in you and put you down? A lot of times people will do that to make themselves look better. The more, they call it the dog-eat-dog society, right? In order to get up, you have to walk on other people to get up higher.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like people like that, do you? Well, why do we do it? Why do we do things that we don't like other people doing to us? In fact, one of the great commandments is that we would do unto others before they do unto me. Huh?
No.
Mm-mm.
Am I misquoting that?
Yes,
What does it say?
do unto others as you would have them do to you.
Oh, is there a difference there?
Yep.
You see the difference? So many times that we don't understand that if we want other people to treat us in a good way, then we need to treat them before they treat us that way. I mean, being a good neighbor, right? I don't know if you have had a neighbor come in and shovel your walk before.
All the time.
That don't count. Or when you're at the grocery store and you're a little short of cash and somebody behind you says, I'll pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
Pay it forward.
The My Bridge Radio has a thing where you're in a line of cars at the drive-through at McDonald's or something, and you tell the cashier, the person that's working there, I'm going to pay for that meal behind them too.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how they know how much it's going to cost, but whatever. I mean, they might be ordering for a youth group. That can be pretty expensive. But the thing is, they do it not because they want to pat themselves on the shoulder, but because that is the right thing to do. That's what God has asked us to do. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. How you doing? Are you loving your neighbor just as much as you love yourself? Have you sacrificed your own things so that your neighbor can be taken care of? So here's the situation here. Jesus answered and says, very truly I tell you, you are looking for me not because you saw the signs I performed, but because you ate the loaves and had your fill. Remember Jesus fed the 5,000 people? I mean, can you imagine being there? They're listening to Jesus preach, and there's a guy, a little boy that has 5 loaves and 2 fish, and Jesus says, "Hey, everybody sit down." And he breaks the loaf and offers it to God, offer thanks. And all of a sudden, he says, "Disciples, go pass it out there and feed all those people," right? And every single person had more than their fill, and then they collected 12 baskets of leftovers. Did they really want to know Jesus, or did they want to just see him take care of their needs? That's why they were coming, because they knew that they were going to go hungry if they showed up. Do not work for food that spoils, but for food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. For on him God the Father has placed his seal of approval. Then they asked him, what must we do to do the works that God requires? They're always wanting a checklist. Well, if you do this, then you will get this. And that's the way the Hebrew people were all their lives, all through history. They wanted to know, how much can I get by so that I can get what I want? That's not what God desires of us. We don't do things to get something. How many of you do things to get something? You go to work because you're going to get paid.
Right,
Right?
right.
But why don't we get to the point where we go to work because we enjoy serving other people? And when we work, we're doing it not for the boss, not to let other people see how good I am, but you're doing it because that's the right thing to do. That's what God says. This is the way you should live your life. And so when you go to work, you're not working for that boss, but you're working for me. And if you're working for God, who can see what you're doing, especially when nobody's watching what you're doing. I mean, how many people, when they're working, and the boss is not looking, they do don't do it the right way, they kind of get around and do, cut corners. I remember watching this movie a long time ago. It was a spoof on the car company. It was called the Asan Motors. And the Japan company, the car company, got together with the American workers, and the American workers was teaching the Japanese people how to cut the corners. And it used to be that the Japanese company put out these good vehicles, and now the vehicles started to fall apart because they were listening to the wrong people, you see. But America became a great nation because, first of all, they trusted God, who gave them the ability, the skills to do great things. And they built great things like good cars, tools, machinery. And when they worked hard. But through the years, what has happened is America don't even like to work anymore. I mean, time and time again, I go to a place like Safeway, and there's a new person. I mean, I always see new people working there. Where's so-and-so? Well, they didn't show up for work. They just want to come in and get their paycheck, but they don't want to work. Why? Because all they're going to work for is to get the money. And as you know, the money that they get is not that much, right? So they feel like it's not worth going to work. It's better to stay home and just let the government feed you. I see that a lot. Then they asked him, what must we do to do the works God requires? And Jesus answered, the work of God is this. First of all,